Shalom Aleichem Internet. My name is Rabbi Sandor Gajzinski, Chabad Rabbi in Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Maryland, and I'd like to welcome you to the very first segment in what we are going to refer to as the Weekly TorahByte. We will be taking a look at the Parashat HaShavua, the weekly Torah portion, and drawing a lesson that you can use either at your Shabbat table or hopefully throughout your daily life. Now, this very first Torah portion, Parashat Bereishit, has a tremendous amount to talk about. There is the 6 days of creation, Shabbat, Adam and Eve, their sin in the tree of knowledge, Cain and Abel and their sin, and the lineage from Adam all the way down to Noah. We don't have much time, and so we'll choose one. What we will discuss is the day of Shabbat, in which we find something that needs a little bit of explanation. The words are very familiar. Vayichulu hashamayim va'aretz v'chol tzva'am, and the heaven and the earth and all their hosts were completed. Vayichal Elokim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa, and God completed on the seventh day His work which He had done. Vayishpot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa, and He rested on the seventh day from all His work which He had done. From that, we get the day of Shabbat, in which we end and complete our work on day number 6, Friday, and we rest on day number 7, Shabbat. Yet, when we look at the words that we had just quoted, we find that it was a little different in regards to God on the first Shabbat ever. It says, Vayichal Elokim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa, and God completed on the 7th day His work which He had done. Now, if I told you I finished a project on Thursday, then what that would connote is that on one point or another on the day of Thursday, I was still working on the project and then completed it. Which would mean to say, in regards to Shabbat, that God was still working on one point or another, creating something on the 7th day, and then completed His work, which would run counter to the basic understanding that God completed His work on the 6th day and rested on the 7th. So how to explain that? Well, Rashi brings a beautiful explanation, which is that there was something that still needed to be created after the 6 days. Ma haya ha'olam chaser, what was the world missing? Menucha, says Rashi. God did create something on the day of Shabbat. What He created was the concept of rest. Because rest, as we do on the day of Shabbat, is not just the cessation of work, to not work, which wouldn't be anything to create, it would be not creating, not working, not doing anything. But the concept of rest, as the Torah teaches us for the day of Shabbat, is serenity, menucha. Serenity is a proactive thing, something we need to achieve and accomplish. It's transcendence. The day of Shabbat is meant to be a day that we don't take off. We don't just stop work, kick back with a newspaper and a glass of orange juice. But it's meant to be a day that we transcend the mundane activity of days 1 through 6. And we appreciate the wholeness and the completeness of purpose that we have imbued into the first 6 days of creation. We have a bird's eye view of all that we have done, and we experience it on a completely different level, on a divine level. That transcendence is the element that God created specifically for day 7. And what it means to us is that as Shabbat enters, one is not meant to just stop, to take a day off, as mentioned earlier, but actually to have a day on top of the world, a day above the mundane worries and concerns of traffic and bosses, parking spaces and paychecks, a day where we spend time in the synagogue, we spend time learning, we spend time with family, we appreciate the purpose and the divine construct of it all. That is serenity. Because as we wish each other on Shabbat Shalom, that doesn't mean to have a calm Shabbat, peace as in calm. It means to have a complete and wholesome Shabbat. For the term shalom comes from the word shalem, whole, complete. To experience the creation and the purpose of it in its wholeness. And we do that by sitting around with family, by learning, by going to the synagogue, and getting a little bit of a taste of the divine, of what this is all really about. And so I wish you all that this coming Shabbat should be for you a Shabbat Shalom, a complete and wholesome and divine Shabbat, a Shabbat of true serenity. And looking forward to seeing you next week for our next segment of TorahByte. All the best.